What's going on, everybody? Welcome to a new episode of Mornings with my Muse. I am Elijah Muse, and I have my amazing, gorgeous, intelligent, beautiful mother of my children, woman of my dreams, sexy chocolate thunder out here, Avriel Muse over here to my left.
Period.
And we're
Okay.
back in this thing, yo.
Yes.
So, what are we talking about today? What is the topic of the day, babe?
So we're going to be talking about common sense versus convictions.
And this is when it comes to decision making, right?
Yes.
So common sense decisions versus decisions with conviction. And what exactly does that mean?
So common sense decisions is like the decision that makes the most sense in the moment. It's the most practical. All arrows are pointing towards making that decision. Whereas a conviction sometimes doesn't make sense. It's something that you feel strongly in your heart, something you are holding firmly to that you know that you need to make that decision, but it might not make the most sense in that moment. So,
Okay, got you. So common sense decisions versus decisions with conviction is what we're getting into today. And so I think it's a great place to start off just by giving some examples of common sense decisions in our life versus decisions of conviction, and just explain like why that's important. Because for us, in the last few years of our life, I've seen that the common sense decisions, I think have been beneficial and they've definitely helped us. But the decisions that have been life changing have been the ones with conviction behind
ooh,
it.
yep, 100%.
And so that's, I think, the reason why we chose this topic today, because really, in essence, the decisions with conviction behind them usually come from God
So good.
for us, right? And when you have a relationship with God, when you're communing with Him, when you're talking with Him, when you're constantly building a relationship, I feel like those convictions He pretty much sends us those convictions, right?
Yeah.
And when I think of conviction, I think of like purpose and direction. And I know when I'm following God's convictions, when I'm following His purpose and the direction that He has for my life, then life will be more fulfilling
Yeah.
and will make more of an impact. So I think that's why it's super important to really be in tune with the convictions that are on your heart.
Yes, I love that. And I feel like what makes the most sense isn't always where God is leading.
100%. Most of the time it's not.
It-
It doesn't make sense.
One thing about God, He's going to have you walking in the dark, okay?
Right?
I guess that's that faith walk.
Confused as a mug. Yeah.
That's so true. So, okay, so you said you wanted to start off with some examples.
Yeah.
What's the first one that comes to mind for you? We're probably thinking about the same one.
Yeah. So, I mean, we live in Dallas, DTX, Dallas, Texas now. And we've been here for about a year and a half at this point. And neither one of us like knew nothing about Texas. Knew absolutely nothing about Texas. I think I grew up in the States, but I don't know, my sister lived in Texas because she was stationed in, she works for the Air Force. So she lived in Texas for a couple years, but I maybe came to visit her once. Like I have some family here, maybe came once or twice growing up, but like, I don't think I'd ever been to Dallas first off, and so
Neither have I.
when we got married, I moved to Canada, right? Moved to Toronto. We stayed up there for a couple of years, and we ended up moving back to the States, moving to Atlanta to be closer to my family because we had a kid and wanted some help with our son.
Right.
And so, like, Dallas was not on the radar at all.
Not at all.
Yeah. Like, I would have went life happily without ever visiting Dallas, Texas. But here we are, like I said, a few years into marriage now, and we're living in Dallas, Texas, living our best life.
Literally.
Yeah.
I love Texas so much.
And the only reason, though, that we're here is because God literally told Ave. He told Ave, "Hey,
He blew up my spot.
Yeah.
Literally.
I need y'all down there. So go ahead and make that trip.
Yeah.
And it was something like, because like you said, convictions don't always make sense, right?
Yeah.
So we knew that, or you knew initially. I'm not even going to act like I knew, but you knew that it was a God sent message, a God sent conviction, right? When we came to Dallas, and like I said, at the time when this first popped up, we were living in Atlanta. I was playing for a couple churches in Atlanta. My parents had a church down there. I was playing for another church. I think you were coming out of a job in
No,
Atlanta.
I was just starting this job at the time when I told you. Yeah.
Gotcha. Yeah, just started a new job. We were literally getting ready to buy a home around this same time. Like literally found the home, put in an offer. Offer is accepted. We're getting financing in order, like about to purchase a home, and this kind of pops up on the scene. And so at the time, like I said, we had all these things going. We were getting ready, had joined a church. We're getting ready to lay roots in Atlanta, Georgia, right? Didn't really know anybody outside of like one couple, which we were pretty close with at the time, that were from Dallas, but didn't have any family members there. Pretty much no friends, barely any friends here, no connections. And so being in Dallas was just like, why? Or like the thought of moving to Dallas was like, why the heck would we ever?
Yeah, like literally there's nobody else that we knew outside of that one couple.
Yeah.
Michael and Amanda.
Yeah.
So, well, it actually was funny because at the time when we were in Georgia, Michael and Amanda first came to us and was like, yeah, we're going to move back home because this is where they're both from.
Yep.
And we were like, okay, cool. Like, you know, I was sad, obviously, because I'm like, not my friend leaving me, you know, but whatever. I was like, whatever, we'll just make it work. And we'll just have to do like trips and like come see each other, that kind of thing. But I had no intention on moving to Texas as well. I was just like, okay, well, bye guys. Like it was so nice to have you close to us, but I guess we're going to have to, you know, just visit each other. And I just had dream after dream after dream after dream after dream. And I remember just coming to Elijah being like, babe, I know God is telling us like we have to move to Texas. Yeah. And Elijah was just like, absolutely not. This stubborn. Man is so stubborn, but it's fine because I think you kind of laid the roots for practicality as well.
True. Yeah,
like it wasn't practical to move right there in that moment.
The time that we got the message, it would not have been possible. Yeah.
Right. But at that time, I'm very much the kind of person where I might not lean towards the execution. I'll just lean towards the vision and be like, whatever, we'll make it work. It'll happen.
You dive in head first.
Yeah, I'll dive in head first. And Elijah's more so, no, we need to have plan and step by step in place and all that stuff, which is beautiful. So I think his stubbornness kind of worked for a while. Yeah, it worked in our favor for a few months. And then after, it was just like, I don't know what made you decide that we could move, but eventually we ended up having like one big conversation and then we ended up deciding we were going to move.
Yeah. I mean, honestly, it was like, it's sad to say, but I think this is a lesson in life. A lot of times we have to have doors shut in our face to listen to God.
Talk about it.
Because really, there were some things that we had going on in Atlanta that we were trying to do. Like we were getting ready to buy a house. And like I said, we had found a beautiful townhouse there. I've been wanting to be a homeowner literally since college, you know, since I started understanding like the purpose of real estate and how it could be like a wealth building tool. And so we were finally getting ready to buy our first home.
Yeah.
We had already put money down and we're just working out financing. And just some things I ended up falling through because I'm a business owner. I don't think I had 2 years of tax returns yet.
Yeah.
So some things fell through with the financing. And like literally, I think it was a week before we were supposed to close. The financing ended up falling through.
Literally a week before.
Yeah,
and we were so devastated.
Yeah. Like we had started buying furniture, appliances. Like money was ready to go for the down payment, for closing costs, all that. Like we were good. And so that fell through. And then I'm trying to think, was there anything else around that time?
Well, the church that we were going to, you know, that kind of ended up being a messy situation.
Yeah, right. So the job that Ave was working, that you were working at the time, was not internally healthy.
Yeah.
So you stepped away from that job, and yeah.
Yeah. So there's just a couple of situations that happened in Atlanta that where doors closed, and it just felt like, okay, maybe we really aren't supposed to be here.
All right.
And like I said, like God was making it so clear, and it was just such a strong conviction in my heart. So I don't know. We just ended up making the move, even though it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
It truly was not a common sense decision, because even like we said, Elijah's family was in Georgia, and that's who was helping us with our son.
That was a huge kind of fear. It was just, man, we have a 2-year-old son at the time. And I was like, we actually moved back to the States to get more help because we weren't getting a lot of help
Right.
in Toronto from kind of friends and family. So that was another thing. It's like, man, we're going to be dolo out here. Or, I mean, just us when it comes to parenting.
Yeah.
But it definitely worked out. One question that I have for you is, because in that situation, I feel like that did cause some tension when you had the conviction initially, but I didn't feel the same way.
Yeah.
So when you have married couples, business partners, two people dating, how would you navigate a conviction when one person in the party feels like this is what we need to do, and the other person doesn't feel the same way?
Well, I feel like even in that situation, I very quickly realized like there's nothing that I can do or say that's going to move this man. Like if this is truly a conviction from God, he's going to reveal it to Elijah in his own time and in his own way, and that's really how things played out. And that's played out a few times in our marriage.
Yeah.
So yeah, if it's a conviction from God, you don't need to push. You don't need to pry. You don't need to try to like get the other person to see your viewpoint. That person will come into alignment with you if it's the true decision that you're supposed to make. Because when we're in unity, there's nothing better.
Yeah, definitely.
And what I will say, though, is God has such a funny way of showing the other person, even after the fact, even after you make the decision, that it truly was the best decision. Because I would even say us moving to Texas has benefited Elijah and his career more than any other place we've ever been. It was like we moved here, and within a couple months, he started getting playing opportunities, playing at like mega churches that we've always heard of. Like it was just opening up doors for you in new ways. And Elijah very quickly saw like, man, you were right, bro. Like this is truly where we're supposed to be. And God just has such a beautiful way of showing your other partner even after the decision has been made. Maybe not right away, but he will in time.
Yeah, definitely. And there's been so many blessings, I think, attached to that. And it's crazy because like the majority of the things that we prayed for from the beginning of our marriage, all were fulfilled in Texas.
Oh, so good.
So like one thing that we were missing, a huge component that we felt like we were missing, was community. Yes. Like just like-minded individuals. And like Ave had friends in Canada that she had grown up with. I had friends in Atlanta that I had been to school with. And it's not that any of those people weren't great people. It was just that we were kind of entering different phases in life. Yeah. And like priorities didn't necessarily align. Yeah. So we were more so just looking for, we were, newly married, new parents. Like, we need like-minded people in similar positions to us in life that understand kind of like what we're going through, and we can have topics around the things that we're experiencing right now in life. Yeah. So that was fulfilled. I feel like
that's so good. Can I add to that real quickly?
Yeah.
Because I think that I don't want us to skip over the fact that some of your blessings truly are location specific. Like we wouldn't have had a lot of our prayers answered if we weren't obedient to make the move to Texas, even though it didn't make sense. Yeah. And we wouldn't have the community. We wouldn't have the relationships we have. Elijah wouldn't have the opportunities he had if we stayed in Georgia, if we stayed in Toronto, even too, because this is where we're supposed to be. So it's like things started to align because we were in the right place.
Yeah. And it all started with the conviction.
Yes. And all started with the conviction. So that is just one of the major examples in our lives.
Yeah. Yeah. Any other examples that you can think of? Or that you like to share?
Okay, so one of the examples I feel like right now is playing out, but I haven't really seen the other side of it yet. But it's essentially right now I've been seeing, like traction on Instagram. Like I've finally been able to like grow my audience to like just a size that I'm happy with. And now I'm really stewarding that audience.
Right.
And I'm feeling this strong conviction to go back to what God told me in 2013, which is do your YouTube channel, you know, like I've created you to do this YouTube channel. I need you to get it done. And now I'm feeling the strong conviction to do that and be consistent with it and give it even more energy than my Instagram. And that doesn't really make sense right now because I feel like I'm seeing way more traction on my Instagram versus my YouTube has always been a struggle. Like it always has felt like this uphill battle. And now I feel like the conviction is like, do the thing that you feel like doesn't make sense.
I would say that the conviction never left.
Oh yeah, it never left. You're right.
Is
yeah.
more so though that the pain of unmet expectations can make us shy away from the convictions.
Yeah, you know? That's so true.
And I think that's an interesting point to like make is that in our experience, most of the time when we follow a God-led conviction, it feels almost like a bad choice, you know? Like
yes,
it feels. Well, I'll say not even like a bad choice. It feels risky.
Yeah,
it feels risky, right? And when we look at our common sense decisions, we get instant gratification most of the time with those common sense decisions.
Yeah,
you know, you do something that's common sense, most people around you are going to be in agreement. You know, from the outside looking in, it's going to be like, of course you should do that.
Yeah.
Versus the convicted decisions, it's probably not. If it doesn't make sense to you, it's definitely not going to make sense to anybody else.
Yeah.
Right. And so I think a lot of those decisions come with scrutiny.
Yeah.
You know, even like us moving to Texas once again, like to our family, it didn't make sense. Like to my family, they're like, you know, why? Like why?
Why?
Yeah, it's just
legit.
That's
Why?
so random.
Why Texas?
Like what purpose? Like don't take my grandbaby away. You know. So like with what you're dealing with right now, as far as making YouTube the main thing when it comes to pursuing your career, it's like we have to be able to sacrifice on the front end.
Yeah.
For the reward that like God has already ordained for us on the back end.
Yeah. And YouTube has always felt like the long game for me because it's longer form content, which I feel like it takes more energy and effort to, you know, get out there. I feel like there's more of a production behind YouTube versus like Reels is so simple, like 90 seconds and under, you know, versus YouTube is just a little bit different. You know, you have to put a little bit more energy into the content.
Yeah.
And doing all that and not seeing instant gratification also feels like, you know, and I feel like I've had that up and down struggle throughout the years with YouTube, even though that conviction never left. So I did walk away from it for multiple seasons because it was like, you know what, this is just not working. And then Instagram was working and I was like, okay, I'm just going to put my energy here. So now I'm feeling this really strong conviction to like make sure that I am not playing with YouTube this year, you know, and just to be like super obedient in that area and see what happens. So like I said, I haven't seen the results of that yet, but I am hopeful, I feel like for the first time, because I've seen how us doing what we're convicted about versus doing the common sense decision has benefited us. So I have a question for you, babe. What's the downfall of not following your convictions?
The downfall of not following your convictions. So here, I'll start with the benefits.
Okay.
So I think the benefits of following your convictions, and I'm talking about God-led convictions that give that caveat, meaning you have a relationship with God, you're in His Word, you are being led by Him in life. I think if you know something is of God and you follow those things, follow His direction, follow those convictions, in the short term, it may feel more painful. In the short term, it may feel uncomfortable.
Yeah.
It may feel like a big risk.
Yeah.
You might not see rewards up front. But I think over the long term in life, you will see so much more fulfillment personally. You have such a bigger impact in your community, for his kingdom, for your family, for all of the people that are connected to you. You will have a much bigger impact. And I think you'll just live an overall better life, like less pain, less suffering, you know, when you're being led by God.
So you would say the downfall is not getting to see the long-term rewards.
That, and if you don't follow your convictions, I don't think you will ever live a life completely fulfilled.
That's good.
Because how can I fulfill my purpose without talking with the one that created me? Right? So it's like, if I'm not talking with my creator and I'm just doing what I think I should do and what makes the most sense, I'm going to miss out on things that he's planned for me, that he's ordained for me, that I'm created to do. Like, you have specific skills that you have things that only you can do. You have people that only you can reach.
Yeah.
And in order to get to those people, you need to follow your convictions and do YouTube.
That's so good. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it's the same for everybody out there. Like, we all have specific skills. We all have specific things that are placed inside of us, gifts, talents, abilities, whatever they are. And we have to follow those convictions in order to pull those things out of us and to use those gifts to help other people.
That's so good. I love that. I really love how you brought everything back to God, because at the end of the day, that's where our convictions come from. You know, like, we'll feel this real strong pulling and tug in our heart to go in a certain direction, even if it doesn't make sense. But that's really your creator leading you in the direction you're supposed to go. And we need to pay attention to those convictions, because if we don't, there's so much we're missing out on.
Yeah,
you know?
100%.
And I also want to say that you might have a conviction to go in a certain direction and you don't see that payoff for a long time. But what I will say is that could also just be the building block to the next conviction, if that makes sense. Like, sometimes you have to take the first step to be able to be given a new set of instructions.
Right.
You get what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So a lot of the time we're looking for it to make sense even after, you know, the long term, where it's like, okay, we moved to Texas. We could have moved to Texas and we didn't see the fruit of that decision, but we still like paid attention to our convictions, and there could really be a next set of instructions that we could have really only got if we moved to Texas, if that makes sense. So I just wanted to say that, because I don't want people to always think that there is some sort of reward on the back end right away. It might not come with that first conviction. It actually might come with the second. It actually might come with the third.
Yeah.
You know?
100%. And even kind of like to piggyback off of what you're saying, what I see going along with that is, you follow your conviction and it takes 5 years. It takes 7 years. Just because it takes longer than you expected does not mean that it wasn't the right decision.
That's so good. That's so good. Can I add to that?
Yeah, go ahead.
I feel like that's what happened with the conviction of me leaving my job.
Okay.
I felt like I left my job back in December of 2021. I left my job out of obedience and out of a strong conviction that that was a decision that I was supposed to make. And I honestly feel like I'm just now seeing the fruit of that.
Yeah.
Now,
Took
this month.
Full year.
A full year. It's now January 2023.
Yeah.
You know, and that was hard. And that brought a lot of tension, because it was like, man, if I just stayed at this job, you know? But I knew that because God was calling me out of something, he was calling me into something else. And I didn't see that into something right away.
Yeah.
it took a year. But now I'm starting to see that.
And man, okay. So it's funny. My therapist was talking about this, right? Or our therapist, I should say.
Yeah, our therapist.
Because I had talked to her about like just that whole situation, and one of the things that we had talked about was that a lot of times, if, like I said, you make a God-led decision and you're not seeing the results that you expected, right?
Yeah.
A lot of times we have to go through pain to be taught a lesson, right? As well. So even we like might need to shift our perspective of pain and of struggle, because struggle isn't there for us to just feel bad and for life to suck. A lot of the times the biggest lessons that we learn in life is through pain.
Yeah.
You know? And so we need that pain, we need that struggle to elevate and to trust God more.
Yeah.
You know, like how many people can say, yo, it wasn't until that bad thing happened.
Yeah.
It wasn't until I lost such and such.
It wasn't until I hit rock bottom.
Went through this and that.
Yeah.
Until I actually started depending on God. And I started praying again. Or I started going back to church, right? Or I just reassessed my life and had to figure things out. And so even when it comes to those convictions, what I hear is it's not just about the outcome. It's not just about the reward. Convictions are about the process.
Ooh, that's so good.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to play this podcast back and take notes. That's so good. And that's exactly what happened with the job situation.
Yeah.
So I think it's beautiful that we're giving you guys layered examples because, yeah, we moved to Texas and we got all these benefits and it was beautiful. And, you know,
pretty quickly on that.
Pretty quickly, decision, you know, but then there was a decision where like, man, I left my job and that was tight and that was hard, you know, and I didn't see the reward of that right away. But now we are a year later. So, yeah, I'm just glad that we're giving you guys different decisions that you guys can see.
And I would say in the decision for you to leave your job, right, there were 2 to 3 life-changing lessons, I believe, that happened to us and for you that we'll carry for the rest of our lives.
For the rest of our lives.
You know?
Because of that.
We didn't necessarily see finances the same way. We had very different beliefs. Not very different, but we had different beliefs when it came to finances. I feel like we're more aligned with finances after you leaving your job, going through a year of like not having 2 incomes. Yeah. Right? Because we went from 2 very nice incomes
to just one nice income.
One decent income, right? And so we had to really be on one accord when it came to how we manage
our money. Yeah.
Like, and that was something I feel like we've implemented things now when it comes to both of us, like, because it was just me like handling the money,
finances,
and now it's a joint effort. Yeah. You know, and that wouldn't have happened probably unless you would have left your job.
Yeah.
And it definitely wouldn't have happened.
And that I really think is a building block it's really just setting us up for the next season of more. You know, and I felt like we needed to be unified in a new way, and that wouldn't have come, like you said, without the struggle.
And then, like, I would just say one more lesson that I'm not going to speak for you, but maybe you can let me know if I'm on or not, is that in that season, I think because there was an adjustment and kind of a cutting back that we had to do because you left a job, less income in the house, right? I think you felt it. You felt it more than you had ever felt it. Like, you felt that cutback more than when we just wasn't making any money. And it was because, like,
our expenses stayed the same.
Right.
That's why.
Yeah. And the income dropped.
Yeah.
And so I think, like, when we were broke and essentially, like, not making any money, really, it was just so regular. We was just laughing about it.
Yeah, we were. We thought it was a joke, bro.
Yeah. But it's like then when you have two parent household, you know, both making good salaries, and then you drop that to one income, like it felt like a bigger loss, like more of a struggle than barely making any money, you know. And I think because of that struggle, there was a new fire ignited inside of you.
Yeah.
And so I saw you do things because you were pregnant last year too. So you quit your job, immediately got pregnant, like 2 months later or something.
Exactly.
Yeah, 2 months later.
Crazy.
And I saw you do things pregnant that you would have never even tried to do.
Not pregnant.
Yeah. Like 8 months pregnant, and you're launching programs. You know, you're
doing my YouTube channel.
Yeah, doing the YouTube channel consistently. Like things that you didn't even fathom doing, but you also had the space to do it because you didn't have to work the job. So
right. That's so true. Yeah, I'm really glad that you brought that up too.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have another question for you.
Shoot.
So, how do you know when something is a conviction versus common sense? Like, how do you know the difference between like, oh, this is a common sense decision and this is a conviction decision?
I would say that common sense decisions come from the head. Your convictions come from, I don't want to say the heart, but the spirit. Like, it's a spiritual thing. It's something outside of what we can think. Because like I said, with most of the decisions that are convictions in our life, they actually work against my logic.
They do.
Like, I want to do this over here. And God, you telling me to go the opposite direction. Like, I'm trying to follow traffic. I'm going straight.
Right.
And you telling me to turn around and go the opposite direction on a one-way street.
Yeah.
Like, this don't make no sense.
Right.
Like, I'm about to get injured out here. It feels like. And I think now, like, as I get more in tune with God, I can feel a clear distinction internally of this is me over here and this is God.
Yeah.
And most of the time for me, it's the head versus kind of like heart, head versus spirit.
That's so good. Me and Eliza were talking the other day, and I was like, babe, like, I feel like I didn't get a word for this year. I don't know what our word for the year is. And Eliza's like, I was in prayer, and the word that came to me for this year for us is conviction.
Yeah.
And I loved that because it feels like this is the year that we're finally going back to the basics of what we've known deep down in our hearts, So for me, that's the YouTube channel. For us, that's Mornings with my Muse, the podcast, and it's like knowing that these are convictions we've had, but we've drifted away from because they didn't make the most sense. Yeah. And now we're like, we're going to do this. Like, come hell or high water, we're gonna give it our all. Like, literally, Elijah's bouncing our baby with.
Yeah, she's here chilling on the floor.
Shiloh's outside with the iPad because our kids woke up. But I'm like, no, let's stay true to our convictions and do this regardless. And in past seasons, we would have never done that. Yeah. And I would say that came from that hard season as well for me. Of me leaving my job, because now I understand, like, you got to do hard things. Yeah. I learned that when I left my job. Like, you can do hard things. Not only do you have to do hard things, but you can. And I had this belief that I couldn't for a long time. Yeah. And I think that a lot of our convictions are hard to do. And we have to be willing to do them so that we can see the fruit of that decision.
Yeah. What just came to me was, like, bouncing off of what you said, our convictions feel bigger than us.
Yes.
And it's like when something feels bigger than us, or it feels like it's outside of our realm of knowledge and experience, fear settles in, right?
Yeah.
Because, like, we don't want to fail. And then even just like, even if you don't fear failure, there's like always a fear of the unknown.
Yeah.
It's like biological. As humans, like, literally, if you went into the unknown, like, from an evolution standpoint, thousands of years ago, you could die from things in nature, like animals, the weather. Like, there were so many obstacles and dangers. It's like, it's hardwired into us to stick with what we know.
Yeah.
So I think it is a hard thing to follow your convictions, and especially when you feel like it's something that you're not great in.
Yeah.
But something that you always tell me, I'm still in this quote from you. is that God will use the areas that we're weak in,
Yeah.
To prove who he is through us.
Right. And it makes us depend on him.
Yeah.
When it feels bigger than us, it forces us to depend on something outside of us.
Yeah.
That is bigger than us.
Yeah. Like how is God going to prove himself in the things that we're already good at?
Period. Because we're going to rely on our own
Like
strengths.
the things that we can do on our own.
Yeah. So, yeah, I would say our convictions, too, that's a common quality. Like, our convictions feel bigger than us. Our convictions require us to really trust and lean on God in new ways.
Yeah.
So, that's good, too. Okay, so we're going to ask this question to each other, and then we're also going to ask this question to our audience, which is, what's a conviction in your life that you've been ignoring because it doesn't make the most sense? I feel like we've already touched on ours, because, like, for me, I said
The
YouTube thing.
I mean, I can go into one
Okay.
that's hit me this season of life. So, like, for last 3 years now, I've been running my business, and kind of am getting into a nice flow of things. Like, I'm seeing positive growth, have like a 10-year plan of where I want to grow the business, and like life makes sense. Like, it's common sense to stick with the thing that I'm seeing success in.
Right.
Got other things like playing opportunities and stuff like that going on the side as well. And so probably if it were up to me, I would just stick with the things that I'm doing now,
Yeah.
But over the last year, I would say I've been convicted of just two main things. I've had two convictions kind of land on my heart. And one is to get back into writing more music. Feel like God has placed words inside of me to write through music, to share, right? To impact the world in that way. So that's one thing. And then for some reason, I don't even know why, the second one is to like just start building a personal brand and kind of like speaking and communicating to people through social media.
Yeah.
Which is something like I
Elijah
have no
does
desire
not care.
I have zero desire to do that. But hey, I'm gonna try to be obedient and follow through with that and see what happens. I think it's interesting though, like, so with the whole personal brand and social media thing, like I literally up until the beginning of this year, I haven't posted on social media for my personal social media in over a year. I think I might have posted once last year, and then I posted like once or twice in 2021. So like in 2 years, I posted 2 or 3 times on my personal brand or on my personal page. And so yeah, like it's something I just don't care about. I have no desire to do. I'm like, yo, I'm making money. I'm straight. Like, I don't care if people know about my personal life, but as I'm being pushed in that direction. And it's interesting that I started posting decently, consistently, like once a week. Now I'm posting, I think, 3-4 times this year so far. And I'm already seeing traction in it. I think like God knows I'm so far left. He's like, man, let me just give this guy a little something to encourage him. Because if not, I probably
wouldn't do it.
I probably would have pushed it back another year.
Yeah.
So I think those are the convictions that I've had in this season.
That's so good.
Yeah.
And it does. Yeah, it would make more sense for you to double down on gifted hands because that's what's been bringing the money in and all that stuff. It doesn't make sense to start this new venture.
A new venture, essentially.
It's essentially a new venture.
Yeah.
So we also want to ask you guys, what is that decision for you? Like, what's something that you know is a strong conviction that you just haven't done because it doesn't make the most sense?
Yeah. I would just say one more thing attached with that.
Okay.
So when it comes to like, what are those convictions that you have in your heart that you know you should do? I would say not only pull out what you feel, but pray about what you feel too,
yeah.
Right? Just so that like we can discern and make sure what is something that I'm thinking and feeling from a personal standpoint versus is this really of God?
Yeah.
And ask for confirmation, ask for direction, just to confirm.
Yeah, just to confirm. Yeah. That's so good. Yeah. Because sometimes our convictions are from ourselves.
Yeah. I would say when I was in high school and I was in college, I had convictions, but I didn't have no relationship with God. So I don't know where those convictions were coming from. I mean, because I think convictions can also come from like your personal beliefs
and your own personal desires.
Yeah, desires as well. I mean, because all convictions are not godly convictions.
Right. And sometimes our own personal desires don't line up with God's plan for our lives.
Yeah.
Sometimes we have to actually be willing to lay down our own desires to walk out what it is that God has for us. And in time, as we're more in tune with him, our desires will align with his.
Yep.
And we'll be so happy, and we'll have more peace. But
And you know how to filter your desires.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. So it's just important to sort out like where that conviction is coming from. Yep. And I love that you touched on that.
Yeah.
Okay, so our podcast, since we are wrapping it up now, we're here to the age-old question that we always ask each other at the end of every podcast, which is, why am I your muse this week, babe?
That's pretty easy for me, actually, this week.
Okay.
So I think something that I had been struggling with in the last year or so, which we've been having conversations around, is I don't necessarily feel served in marriage, and we had been talking about that and kind of like discussing the reasons behind that. And I would say, in the last couple of weeks, like you've turned up, you turned all the way up, and got me out here feeling like a king. The way you serve me, it feels amazing, So, like to sum it up. In our marriage, I don't think we've been intentional about serving our partner or serving each other in the way that person feels served.
Exactly.
So we've been serving each other from, I think I should serve Ave this way.
Right.
Not, let me actually ask Ave, this week, what do you need from me to feel served? Right. What do you need me to do for you? Like, how can I take something off of your plate?
Yes.
It's more so been assuming that this is how this person wants to be served, or I'll do this and they'll appreciate it.
Right.
Yeah. So it's just, it's been more intentionality and more communication. And it's simple stuff too. Mm-hmm. Just like doing some things around the house and like just being more intentional. Like, I feel like thinking about me, stopping on the way home from dropping off Shy, getting coffee from me. Like, I appreciate those things.
Thanks, babe.
Yeah, sweet. That's why you're my. Same question for you.
So you're my muse this week because you really just inspire me to be more disciplined. Like, seeing how you just have been getting up at 5 a.m. Like, our daughter is making the most noise right now, but yeah, seeing how you've been getting up at 5 a.m. every morning and like just spending time with God, and then reading consistently. I don't know. I just feel like you've stepped up to the plate in new ways, which is kind of like pulling our family in that direction as well. And I just love how I feel like you're stepping into a new era of leadership, which I really love, because I think that you've always led us really well, but there were other areas where you weren't necessarily leading us, Yeah. And I feel like now I'm seeing the full spectrum of all the ways that you can lead us. And it's really inspiring. And it's really pushing me. Like, now I'm considering, should I wake up early? I need to get more done, Yeah. And I think now that we have 2 kids, I'm seeing the need for that. Mm-hmm. Because it's like, I really feel like if I don't get up early, then I'm catching up all throughout the day and, running behind these kids. But in the morning, if I get up early, I'll have time for God. I'll have time for myself. I'll have time for the things that are important to me. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I just really love that that's the direction you're heading in. And it's really just making me so excited and just happy. So yeah, I'll say that.
That's amazing, baby. Well, hey, we'll wrap it up right there. This has been another episode of
Mornings with my Muse. Thank you guys so much for listening. Please make sure that you rate and review this podcast, please, guys. Like, if you've made it to the end, I would say that it's fair enough to say that you like the podcast. So please rate and review if you can on Apple Podcasts. Leave a rating on Spotify. And just let us know, like, DM us. We have an Instagram page, Mornings with my Muse. Let us know what you guys want us to talk about.
See you on the next episode.
Bye, guys.